He had snapped necks, dismembered limbs, and disemboweled enemies for 25 years, Captain Zaxxon thought proudly. Until today, he never had a moment's doubt that his Kroll species sat firmly at the pinnacle of warrior evolution. But the orders from high command unsettled him. A new species, humans, had been discovered. Humans were stealing Kroll tech and causing major damage on a Kroll planet. Zaxxon's squad had been sent to deal with the humans quickly. The humans were cornered with no way off planet and dwindling resources. If they could not be stopped soon, the Kroll deaths would climb. But Zaxxon smirked and hefted his plasma cannon. How could these puny new beings threaten the Kroll? He wondered. My squad will grind them into a bloody pulp. He shook his reptilian head, chuckling as he marched to battle. He would soon learn to never underestimate humanity. Zaxxon's dropship punched through the atmosphere, its stabilizers fighting against the turbulence. He checked his weapon one last time, ensuring that the plasma cannon was fully charged. His squad fidgeted in their seats, eager to get their claws dirty. Remember, these humans are primitive. We'll be in and out before they even know what hit them, Zaxxon said, his voice dripping with confidence. The dropship touched down, and the squad disembarked. They expected to see a backward civilization with crude structures and primitive tools. Instead, they were greeted by the sight of advanced fortifications and high-tech weapons emplacements. What the hell? Drax, Zaxxon's lieutenant, muttered. I thought these humans were supposed to be technologically inferior. Zaxxon's eyes narrowed. Doesn't matter. We'll crush them all the same. The squad advanced, their weapons at the ready. As they approached the nearest installation, a hail of energy bolts rained down upon them. Zaxxon's soldiers scattered, seeking cover behind the twisted remains of Kroll vehicles. Return fire, Zaxxon roared, unleashing a barrage from his plasma cannon. The humans were dug in deep, their positions well fortified. Zaxxon's squad found their usual tactics ineffective against the entrenched defenders. Whenever they attempted to flank or charge the human positions, they were met with a withering barrage of fire that forced them back. Drax popped up from cover, his razor rifle spitting death at the humans. A heartbeat later, a beam of searing light struck him in the chest, burning a hole clean through his armor. He collapsed, his lifeless eyes staring at the alien sky. Zaxxon watched in disbelief as his soldiers fell one by one, cut down by the humans' precise fire. These primitives fought with a skill and ferocity that he had never encountered before. They seemed to anticipate the Kroll's every move, exploiting weaknesses that Zaxxon didn't even know existed. Fall back, Zaxxon commanded, his voice tinged with fury and frustration. The squad retreated, leaving the bodies of their fallen comrades behind. Zaxxon's mind raced as he tried to make sense of what had just happened. These humans were far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. They had stolen Kroll technology and turned it against them with devastating effectiveness. As the dropship carried them back to their staging area, Zaxxon clenched his fists, his claws digging into his palms. He had underestimated the humans, and it had cost him dearly, but he would not make that mistake again. We'll crush them, he growled, his eyes burning with rage. We'll show them what it means to challenge the Kroll. We'll prove that we are the galaxy's apex warriors, and nothing will stand in our way. Zaxxon pored over the intelligence reports, his eyes scanning the data with intense focus. The more he learned about these humans, the more he realized that they were unlike any foe he had ever faced. They were not the primitive, technologically inferior species he had initially believed them to be. According to the reports, humans were highly adaptable, with a remarkable ability to learn and evolve. They had a long and bloody history of warfare on their homeworld, which had shaped them into a resilient and resourceful species. Zaxxon's claws tightened around the data pad as he read about their rapid technological advancement, achieved by reverse engineering the devices of other species they had encountered. Captain, we've captured a human soldier, a subordinate reported, snapping Zaxxon out of his thoughts. Bring them to me, Zaxxon ordered, his voice cold and harsh. The captured human was dragged before Zaxxon, their hands bound behind their back. Zaxxon circled the prisoner, his eyes narrowed as he assessed them. "You will tell me everything you know about your species and your plans," Zaxxon growled, his face inches from the human's. The human met Zaxxon's gaze defiantly. "We're not as simple as you think," they spat. "We've been watching you, learning your weaknesses. Some of us want peace, but others, they won't stop until the crawl are nothing but a memory." Zaxxon's claws dug into the human's flesh, drawing blood. "Peace," he snarled. "There can be no peace between us. Your kind has stolen our technology and turned it against us. You seek to overthrow us and seize control of the galaxy." The human laughed, a harsh and bitter sound. "You don't understand us at all. We're not a unified force, Zaxxon. We're a coalition of factions, each with our own agendas. Some of us see the value in cooperation, but others, they see the Kroll as nothing more than an obstacle to be removed." Zaxxon's mind raced as he processed this new information. The humans were not a singular entity, but rather a complex web of competing interests and ideologies. This only made them more dangerous, more unpredictable. He released the human, shoving them back into the custody of his subordinates. "Get this filth out of my sight," he snarled. As the human was dragged away, Zaxxon turned to face the tactical display. The human forces were gaining ground, their guerrilla tactics and sabotage wreaking havoc on the Kroll's defenses. They struck swiftly and without warning, disappearing into the shadows before the Crow could mount an effective response. Zaxxon's fists clenched as he watched the display, his rage building with each passing moment. These humans had become more than just another enemy to be crushed. They were a personal challenge to his abilities as a warrior and a leader. He would not rest until he had defeated them, until he had proven once, and for all that the Kroll were the galaxy's apex predators. "Prepare the troops," Zaxxon commanded, his voice filled with determination. "We will show these humans the true might of the Kroll. We will break them, body and spirit, and remind them of their place in the universe." As his subordinates scrambled to carry out his orders, Zaxxon's eyes never left the tactical display. He would learn from his mistakes, adapt to the humans' tactics, and crush them beneath his heel. The galaxy would tremble at the mere mention of his name, and the humans would be nothing more than a footnote in the annals of Kroll conquest. Zaxxon's eyes narrowed as he surveyed the tactical display, his mind racing with strategies and calculations. The humans had proven to be a formidable adversary, their guerrilla tactics and sabotage chipping away at the Kroll's defenses with each passing day. He knew that if he didn't act soon, the tide of the war would turn irreversibly in the humans' favor. "We need to strike at the heart of their operation." Zaxxon growled, his claws tapping against the display. "If we can capture their leader, this General Marcus Reeves, we can force them to surrender." His subordinates exchanged nervous glances, their doubts evident in their eyes. "Captain, their main base is heavily fortified. We've lost countless soldiers trying to breach their defenses." Zaxxon slammed his fist against the display, causing it to flicker momentarily. "I don't care about the risks. We are the Kroll, the apex warriors of the galaxy. We will not be defeated by a bunch of primitive upstarts." He turned to face his squad, his eyes burning with determination. "Prepare for a raid on their main base. We will break through their defenses and capture Reeves. Failure is not an option." The squad moved with practiced efficiency, gathering their weapons and equipment. Zaxxon led the charge, his plasma cannon humming with deadly energy. They approached the human base under the cover of darkness, using the terrain to mask their movements. As they drew closer, Zaxxon's sharp eyes noticed something amiss. The base's defenses seemed too quiet, too still. He signaled for his squad to halt, his instincts screaming that something was wrong. Suddenly, the night erupted with a cacophony of gunfire and explosions. Human soldiers emerged from hidden positions, their weapons spitting death at the Kroll raiders. Zaxxon's squad returned fire, their plasma bolts illuminating the darkness in bursts of searing light. They pushed forward, their superior strength and technology allowing them to break through the outer defenses. Zaxxon led the charge, his cannon cutting a swath of destruction through the human ranks. They fought their way into the heart of the base, where they found General Reeves waiting for them in his command center. Reeves stood tall and proud, his eyes locked on Zaxxon as the Crow captain entered the room. "Captain Zaxxon, I presume. I've been expecting you." Zaxxon leveled his cannon at Reeves, his finger hovering over the trigger. "Surrender, human. Your base is lost, and your forces are defeated." Reeves smiled a cold and calculating expression. "Are they? I think you'll find that things are not as they seem." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the base, and the sound of heavy footsteps echoed in the corridors. Human reinforcements poured into the command center, their weapons trained on Zaxxon and his squad. Reeves stepped forward, his arms folded across his chest. "You see, Captain, I anticipated your move. I knew you would try to capture me, to use me as a bargaining chip, but I set a trap, and now you're the one who's cornered." Zaxxon snarled, his grip tightening on his cannon. "You think you've won, human. We will fight to the last breath, and take as many of you with us as we can." Reeves shook his head, his expression almost pitying. "There's no need for that, Captain. I'm offering you a choice. Surrender and negotiate a truce or face annihilation. Your forces are surrounded, and you have no hope of escape." Zaxxon's pride rebelled against the idea of surrender, but he could see the truth in Reeves' words. His options were limited, and the lives of his soldiers hung in the balance. With a growl of frustration, he lowered his cannon. "Very well, human. We will talk." Reeves nodded, a flicker of respect crossing his features. "A wise decision, Captain. Come, let us discuss the terms of our truce." As Zaxxon followed Reeves to the negotiating table, he couldn't help but feel a grudging respect for the human leader. Reeves had outmaneuvered him, anticipating his every move and setting a trap that even the Kroll's superior technology couldn't overcome. Through their discussions, Zaxxon began to see the humans in a new light. They were not the primitive, technologically inferior species he had once believed them to be. They were cunning, adaptable, and fiercely determined. They had managed to steal Kroll technology and turn it against them, proving that they were a force to be reckoned with. Zaxxon realized that if the Kroll were to emerge victorious from this conflict, they would need to change their tactics. They could no longer rely on brute force and technological superiority alone. They would need to learn from the humans to adapt and evolve as they had. As the negotiations progressed, Zaxxon found himself increasingly intrigued by Reeves and the human way of thinking. They were a complex and contradictory species, capable of both great violence and great compassion. They were not so different from the Kroll in many ways. Zaxxon knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult. The humans were a formidable adversary, and there were still many battles to be fought. But for the first time since the conflict began, he felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, with understanding and cooperation, the Kroll and the humans could find a way to coexist in the galaxy. The negotiations between Zaxxon and Reeves were tense, both leaders standing across from each other in the cramped room. Their eyes stayed locked, hands never leaving their weapons. Reeves spoke first. "We can end this conflict, Zaxxon. Surely you see the futility of prolonging it." Zaxxon's grip tightened on his plasma cannon. "The Krell do not surrender, human. We will fight until our last breath." Reeves shook his head. "And how many more of your soldiers will die for your pride? How many of mine? We're both losing this war." Zaxxon opened his mouth to retort, but the words died in his throat as an explosion rocked the base. Alarms blared and the lights flickered. Reeves grabbed his radio. "Report. What's happening?" The voice on the other end was panicked. "Sir, we're under attack." "It's not the Kroll. It's another explosion cut off the transmission." Zaxxon and Reeves exchanged a look, a silent understanding passing between them. They rushed out of the room, weapons ready. The scene outside was chaos. Human soldiers clashed with the attackers, a radical faction of their own kind. Zaxxon saw the hatred in their eyes, the determination to kill both him and Reeves. A plasma bolt whizzed past Zaxxon's head, singing his scales. He spun, firing his cannon at the attacker. The human fell, a smoking hole in their chest. Reeves was at Zaxxon's side, his rifle barking as he picked off the radicals. They fought together, Crowdle and human, against a common foe. Zaxxon's cannon thrummed as he fired, the plasma bolts tearing through the attackers. He saw Reeves duck behind cover, popping up to take precise shots. The human was a skilled warrior, Zaxxon had to admit. The battle was fierce but short-lived. The radicals, though determined, were outnumbered and outgunned. Soon the last of them fell, and an eerie silence settled over the base. Zaxxon and Reeves stood amidst the carnage, their chests heaving. Reeves turned to Zaxxon, a wry smile on his face. "I guess we make a pretty good team." Zaxxon snorted, but he couldn't deny the truth in Reeves' words. They had fought side by side, Kroll and human, and emerged victorious. In the aftermath of the attack, Zaxxon and Reeves returned to the negotiating table. The experience had changed something between them, a mutual respect born of shared combat. "I think," Reeves said slowly, "that it's time we put an end to this conflict for good." Zaxxon nodded, his once unwavering pride now tempered by the reality of their situation. "Agreed. Further fighting will only lead to our mutual destruction." They hammered out the details of the truce, both making concessions for the sake of peace. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As Zaxxon prepared to leave the base, he paused, looking back at Reeves. "You humans have proven yourselves worthy adversaries, and perhaps in time, worthy allies." Reeves extended his hand, a human gesture of friendship. Zaxxon hesitated for a moment before grasping it with his own clawed hand. "To peace," Reeves said. "To peace," Zaxxon echoed. "You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time."